Good afternoon. We're in southern Middle Tennessee on an area known as the Highland Rim, kind of southeast of Nashville, about 75 miles. This property right here is managed as a research station, experiment station by the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. It's referred to as a Highland Rim Forest. It's a little bit less than 1,000 acres. They've owned this property since the 1960s, and a variety of forest and wildlife management demonstration and research projects go on here on a continuous basis. What I'm here to talk about a little bit is bobwhite quail in a forest, and you say, well, quail and forest, that doesn't sound like something that goes together, and in today's world it doesn't. A lot of forests are not friendly to quail. They're grown up, they're closed canopy, they have shade to the forest floor, and there's no fire in that landscape. But just as recently as a few decades ago, and very commonly in the last several hundred years, this area of the forest never looked like they do today. This area is referred to on the topographic maps as the Barrens, and the first explorers that came through this area saw a very savanna, very open forest with a lot of grasses, a lot of cane and river cane, and a lot of scattered small groves of trees and fire, both from the Native Americans as well as escaped lightning fires, managed this landscape in a form very different than what we see today. First explorers came through here and could see for hundreds of yards in every direction, and that was literally in historical terms yesterday. What we're trying to do here is show some opportunities on how to manage your forest for quail, and there's two primary ingredients that are necessary. One is sunlight and the other is fire. And they work hand in hand. You can put sunlight to the ground by having timber harvesting and start that process. You can also use prescribed fire in the landscape, but you really need both of those to have a fully functioning system. What quail live in is in the understory. It's not the forest canopy, it's the understory created by the sunlight to the ground and the fire. They need grasses for nesting, they need forbs for brood habitat, they need escape cover, they need woody cover. They need a mix in a fairly small scale, and that is created by sunlight and fire. And so this stand right here is a mixture of hardwood and pine. You can manage quail in both types. You can manage it in a combination type like this. The real advantage to managing your forest habitat for quail in a pine type, whether it's longleaf pine, shortleaf pine, loblolly, or others, is that you can burn that stand, put prescribed fire in the landscape, and still have a good high-value timber product to sell. So a lot of opportunity here. This site has not been burned, but it's well on its way to providing good quail habitat. Just before we started to shoot this video, we heard a quail off to our side here a couple hundred yards away, so they're definitely already here, even with habitat not fully developed. One other thing I'd like to mention is how to put all this into context. And the National Bobwhite Conservation Initiative, acronym's NBCI for short, was developed as an outgrowth from the old Southeast Quail Study Group. A lot of biologists realize that this is a resident game bird that's managed on a state-by-state basis without any federal oversight, and that a lot of states and organizations were doing great work, but there was not coordination at a national level. In our own NBCI plan, the 2.0 version, which came out about a year and a half ago, in that plan, biologists across all 25 states realized that our greatest and best opportunity to restore wild quail populations was on the forested landscape. In many cases, the agricultural landscapes are becoming more and more intensively managed, and although there's still opportunity there, it's becoming harder and harder to find on any scale. But we have a lot of forested habitat within the 25 state range. Much of it's on public land where work can be done on a landscape scale and provides opportunities for hunters to go back and hunt quail like they did decades ago. So it's very exciting times. There's two major initiatives going on right now, which NBCI is a part of. One is the Longleaf Pine Initiative, which is put together by America's Longleaf, and that is working on longleaf pine restoration across 7 states, primarily in the coastal plain, and a new initiative on shortleaf pine, which will work over 22 states on a large geographic area and hopefully restore efforts on public land first and later on private land to manage for shortleaf and longleaf pine in some open systems with prescribed fire in the landscape. And that will give a tremendous opportunity for public agencies, private landowners, and sportsmen to see quail reestablished, wild quail reestablished across the landscape.